Welcome to this episode of Locked In. In this episode, we're finally going to be doing the final weight and cost breakdown of my gravel bike build for Roadies. So make sure to stay tuned and subscribe if you haven't already. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a few different things. First off, I'm going to be showing you the overall bike, going through each individual component and how much it costs. And I'm going to put that in somewhat quotes because I'm going to give you different options on things that you're able to spend more money on or less money on near the end, and some optional things, as well as I did price things somewhat based on the used market from some items and then new pricing on some other ones that I would recommend getting new or just are so inexpensive you might as well. Now I will have links and discount codes for a few of the items in the description below, and I'll make sure to mention that when going through. But first we're going to do the cost breakdown, and then while I'm doing that, make sure to comment what you think this thing's going to weigh in at. So let's take a look at the bike and give it a cost breakdown. All right, so behind me we have my Marauder all-road gravel bike build for Roadies, the perfect lightweight climbing bike that's also fast but gravel capable for gravel racers. This is the build, and if you haven't seen this or this is the first video you've seen in the series, make sure to check the link in the comments below for the link to the full playlist to describe this project in detail, where I go over basically the thought process and all the parts that are on here and why I put them on. But let's get into the cost breakdown. All right, so first off, we're going to start with the foundation of this, which is the new Cobalt Marauder frame set. And I did work with Cobalt to refine this bike from the original bike that I put on this series, which I will be doing a charity giveaway for, so make sure your notifications on so you can see that video when it comes out. But this frame set retails for $14.99, but I do have a 15% off discount code for it, which is in the links below. So that's going to bring the total cost for the frame set to $12.75. Now this is actually an S-Work stem, but I'm pricing this out to an Uno stem since they're basically the same weight, and I've had no problems with Uno stems I've run in the past. And those are coming in about 25 bucks on eBay. Then we're on to my Ritchie handlebars. These are the Butano WCSs, and I will have links for this in the description below as well. These retail for $104.95, so we're gonna call it 105 bucks. Now the shifters and derailleurs, I'm pricing these at used prices and what I paid for them, because honestly these are really easy to find secondhand because I did go mechanical, and I actually got the pair of shifters and derailleur for 115 bucks. Now I know some of these prices you might not be able to find as good, and with now COVID, because I did get these pre-COVID prices, they might be a little bit more inflated, but again, that's what I found, because mechanical shifters are definitely a lot more inexpensive and easier to find secondhand for people who upgrade to hydraulic. Then we have my tape, which is my Amazon special, is what me and Mario like to call it. This is a tape I found on there. It's a 2.5 millimeter, and it comes in at $17, and I've used it plenty on basically all my bikes, and I've really liked it, especially for the money. Then moving on to my shiny cable housing, and this I am going to price you two different ways. This is not necessary. You don't have to go all out with this link style housing. It is lighter, so for the super weight weenies there, this is definitely worth it. It is totally a pain to put on and install, so I'm going to put that into the latter category later. But basically you're going to spend usually about $30 on cables and housings for a bike with a 1x system on average. Then we go on to the wheels. Now the wheels on here are not the wheels that I'm going to have later down the line, which I mentioned in a previous video. These are a custom built set of whiskey wheels laced to i9 hubs, but the wheel set I'm pricing out for this build to keep it lightweight, but again you can go more inexpensive for your total build, is going to be this Scribe road wheels in the 32 depth. They do have other depths available, but those are $1,000 built, and they are actually a little bit lighter than these wheels. So that's what I'm speccing out as far as price goes, because you can get a great affordable wheel from Scribe for right at $1,000. So if you want to go carbon, it's the best bang for the buck that I've tested out so far. I'm not going to include the carbon fiber seat post into this because this is actually included into the frame set, so you do get that as a freebie instead of having to buy one if you are going to build a bike up from scratch. It is going to come with all the hardware and headset as well, so you don't necessarily need to add on the lightweight top cap and expander plug that I did put into this bike, which I will be mentioning. I am working on a weight weenie budget video coming soon on this channel, so again, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Then we have my saddle, which I'm going to give a base price of 150 bucks for a good saddle. You can obviously find saddles cheaper than that. I'm a big fan of the Specialized Power saddle, and you can get a comp version of that, which is granted going to be heavier, for about $100, but for 150 bucks, sometimes you can find the tie rail or the tie carbon shield rail version secondhand for about $150, and that's a really lightweight saddle for the money. And again, this Burke saddle is going to be put in the latter category for this build. Now you are obviously going to need brake rotors for your bike, for your wheel set, and I'm speccing out 2 6-bolt rotors because if you're getting a center lock wheel set new, especially from Scribe, they actually give you 6-bolt adapters, so you can use these rotors regardless of what wheel set you have. Or if you have a 6-bolt wheel set and then go center lock, you can just get a set of adapters to save yourself some money later down the line. And that's going to come in at $50 for the Ashima A12s. Those are about 70 something grams and they're about $25 a piece. Now, stopping those Ashima rotors are going to be a set of Win R1s that I'm using for this bike. Those are $160 brand new from eBay. And you might be able to find a set of TRP HYRDs, cheaper secondhand, but those are going to be a lot heavier than the Win R1s. Or you could go with the Spires, which you might be able to find again for cheaper than $150, and those are going to be the same weight as the Wins. So if you want to potentially save some secondhand, that'd be the way to go. Now the tires on this bike are Rene Hurst Bonjon passes. These retail for a lot more money, but the best lightweight tire in my opinion for this 35 mil size that I spec'd on this bike is going to be the Gravel King standard casing slicks. Those are going to be $50 a piece and are going to be only 5 grams heavier than the extra light casing 35C Bonjon passes that I have on this bike currently that I'm going to be testing out and putting out a review for later. But I have a review on the slicks on this channel, and I'll put that in the links below as well if you want to see that. But those in a 35 are basically the same weight, and they're actually lighter than the standard casing of these tires. Then we're going to move on to the crankset, which I have spec'd on here as a Force 1 unit with a direct bolt Garbrook chainring. The budget hack that I would do for this bike, again, if I found another deal, is the S900 cranks. Those are a carbon arm version of these, basically. They're basically identical weight, and you can get them easily secondhand in GXP for about $100, sometimes with even the chainring included. So I'm going to spec this as $150 for a crankset with chainring to get you going. Now, this direct mount chainring I'll mention a little bit later if you were going to get a crankset without one, how much that's going to cost. The last few items we have on here are the chain, which I got, which is a YBN unit. That was about $35. And the cassette is an E13 9 to 46 11-speed cassette, which is about $199, but they go on sale quite often. And those you can actually find pretty easily online as well, since a lot of people are going 12-speed. Then lastly, we have your bottom bracket. This is something that you can, again, spend little to a lot of money on. So the standard bottom bracket for something like this is going to be about $35 for a standard GXP SRAM bottom bracket. Which, if I added up everything correctly and didn't forget anything, and I know you'll let me know in the comments below, the grand total for this build in this form, which I'm going to be mentioning the weight later, is $3,628. Now let's talk about the optional extras that you can spend a lot more money on to make this bike even more weight weenie, but this could be something that you can do over time and upgrade subtly. So first off, your main option is going to be if you're going to go direct mount chainring. So depending on how you buy your crank arms, you might have usually a 40 tooth spec on their stock, or you're going to get a 2x setup and then remove the rings and put a stock ring on. But if you want to go with this Garbrook chainring, you're going to be spending $77. There are other direct mount options, but I really do like Garbrook's quality that they have. I've been spending a lot of time on their component set, and I'm really happy with it, and I'll be doing a full review of their drivetrain overall pretty soon. For the Garbrook cage that you're going to see on this bike, you don't actually need it. The reason why I didn't spec this, even though it's on the bike, is because I've done a video, and if you haven't seen that already, I was able to put a 1146 cassette on a stock Apex rear derailleur that is said to only clear a 42, so you don't need to add the cage extender if you're only going to run the 46. I just had that derailleur already modified laying around, so I wanted to reuse it for this build. Saddle-wise, that's a super huge range depending on what you want to spend. If you want to go all the way to ultimate weight weenie, you can get something like this Burke saddle, which is about $400. So you can get like an S-Works power saddle or the carbon tie version, which I believe is called their Pro. So there's a lot of money you can spend to lighten up your seat, but that's really a personal preference, and you should find what shape is more comfortable first, and then maybe get a lighter weight version later down the line if you want to save those grams. I did not include pedals into this price because that's going to vary a lot depending on what style system you're going to run. I can run speed plays on this for road, and then if I do want to take this on a little bit of gravel and have mountain shoes on, obviously I can put something else on there. So you could spend as little as $35 for some basic SPDs, and sky's the limit if you want to get some Dura-Ace pedals or titanium speed plays. So that could range from $35 to $100 for some basic mountain or road pedals in my experience, but it can go up from there. Cages, obviously, same thing. You can spend a lot of money on carbon cages or some basic cages, which can cost you, $10 to $20 per for a decent aluminum set. So that's going to range depending on how, again, weight weenie you want to get. Then lastly, it's going to be cables. Again, the cables on this bike are a link style. I did source these from AliExpress. I'll try to find the links and put it in the description below. You buy these by the meter, so I probably spent between 40 and 60 bucks because I want to say it was $20 per meter, and I think I had some leftovers, but this probably would cost you, because obviously you want to buy more than not having enough. I'd probably buy 2 or 3 meters just to be safe, and I did buy 2 different colors just to kind of offset the brakes being pink and the shift cable being purple. That's just me. You can obviously still get it in black or whatever other colors they offer currently. Then the top cap and expander plug are only about an extra $30 or so. They do lighten it up quite a bit compared to the stock headset, and I've had no issues with this expander plug. I've used it in the past, but it is my first time using this top cap. Like anything else in the cycling industry, you can spend a little bit or a lot of bit on these optional extras. It can be as little as about 350 bucks for the lower end options for everything, and probably, I don't know, $800 roughly, depending on if you went all out and got top shelf of everything that I've mentioned. And then you can get a power meter, and then you're running down that slippery slope. But now let's get on to the main event, the weight. So as this sits right now, I'm going to give you 3 different weights like I mentioned. I'm going to weigh it as it sits, which is going to have my Brighton front mount on here, my bell, both bottle cages, and my pedals. So let's see if you guessed right. All right. Hell yeah. All right, so I'll give it to you in both metrics, but we are sitting at 17.02 pounds, and for everybody else, in kilograms, that's going to be 7.72 kilograms. So not bad. So now what I'm going to do is add back my saddlebag as well as my computer to see how much that actually adds to it, and then I'll strip everything down for the new bike weight for your comparison if that's how you like to judge your bikes. So adding that all on, shouldn't weigh that much extra, I'd assume, but I'm curious what it weighs bare. All right, so one more time. I know this is not Rides of Japan level weight weenie, but for me, this has been the lightest bike I've had since probably 2015. And that was my old Focus Azalco that I have on this channel. I think that thing, when I was all done with it, was about 15 and a half. I don't remember if that was with pedals and cages though. All right, so here we go. All right. So with everything, we are sitting at, damn it. I just lost it, I cleared it. It was 17.95 functional weight. Like I said, that's minus water. So under 18 pounds, and the goal for this was to get it into the 17s and to have it at basically 17 dead with pedals and cages and my front mount and my bell. I think that's a total win. So let's strip all of this off and see what the lightest version of this bike is in a way that you can't even ride it. No way. That can't be right. Really? Oh, all right, cool. Well, 1601 in pounds and 7.26 kilograms. So I'm really happy with that. Obviously, there are a lot more weight weenie parts on here than I expected, like with the Burke saddle and stuff like that. But again, this is my YouTube channel, and I am testing out products all the time to produce content for this channel. So if I didn't have this, I would have just used my power saddle that I had. You know, there's a few other things, but realistically, I think this is a killer platform and to show the potential of what you can actually do with the bike. You can obviously save some money and go with a aluminum wheel set from Scribe to save some money, and then do a carbon set later, or maybe have one for gravel in aluminum and one for road and carbon. Things like that, to where it's just a platform to show you the different kinds of bikes that are out there and how you can make one bike do so many different things. This is definitely a lot different bike than my Cobalt Warhawk, which I absolutely love, that has monster gravel clearance and 650B clearance, which I will be testing on this later. But that's something that I wanted to show someone who doesn't need that much tire. Maybe the gravel's not as aggressive where you live and you're mainly riding road and you want something that can do both, but it's gonna be more road friendly and lighter weight. And as you've seen, this thing's pretty light. You can do this build, like I said, for a lot less, but if you take that stock price that I mentioned, that's gonna give you an idea of how to build this. And again, there's so many ways to cut down on price and yeah, add some weight, but again, depending on how you're envisioning this platform, you can step into it and do upgrades over time, or pick what upgrades are important to you and then see what's worthwhile doing now if you can find a deal, or what's worth doing later. So I hope you like this video. Make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on so you can see all the content I put out every single week on this channel, as well as follow me on Facebook and Instagram, as well as you can help support Locked In and pick up a Slow But Look Pro t-shirt or coffee mug or anything else in my Spreadshirt store, as well as I do have a Pateron where I do offer one-on-one Zoom consultations for my top 2 tier levels every single month. And lastly, thanks for watching this episode of Locked In.
Let's get locked in today, like tutorial.